Hey everyone, and welcome to the second EasyPCbuilder video, how to install your operating system in 7 easy steps. If you watched the first video, how to build a computer in 30 minutes with EasyPCbuilder, you've likely found yourself here for the next step of the process. This is a relatively easy process, and like the first video, we show you all the basics that you need to do this correctly the first time. A PDF of the operating system install guide is also available on the website. Before an operating system is installed on the computer, if you turn it on without any boot media to install your operating system, your BIOS will likely show you a screen like you currently see. This is usual and expected. What this means is that we need to install an operating system to a storage device on the computer. By default, your computer BIOS, or the basic input-output system, sets your computer boot device sequence and will look for a boot device to install the operating system from. After the system BIOS is initiated, it starts looking for your operating system to boot to, but currently it's not present. When we install an operating system to your computer, this will let the computer undertake the next step in the computer booting process. So at this point, you'll either need to reset your computer via your reset key, or power it off by holding the power key. Usually turning it fully off gives you a longer period to enter the boot configuration menu. When you power up your computer, we need to enter the BIOS, which will allow us to set our boot device so we can load our operating system. To enter this on computer startup, you have to press a nominated key on the keyboard within the first few seconds of the computer starting up, prior to your motherboard handing over to your operating system boot device. If it's set as the wrong one and the board directs it to a storage device that doesn't have an operating system on it, we'll get the same message as we did before. Depending on your motherboard manufacturer, it's usually the delete button, or it could also be one of the F2, F1, F10 or F12 keys. Have a read of your motherboard manual to determine exactly which one. You only need to undertake this step where your computer shows the screen that we currently see. Basically, you can start hitting this button from the moment you turn your computer on, as a lot of the time your screen will go into hibernation, and by the time it comes back up, you may have missed the prompt to enter BIOS. This is only available for a few seconds at the very start of the boot. Once you're into the BIOS, you need to set your primary boot drive. So where you're installing from a CD or DVD, you will set this as your primary boot device. You may see a screen similar to this menu, or it could be like this, which is more old school, but some motherboards may still display like this. Look for the particular manufacturer name or drive description, as in the BIOS menu, the device may not be as well named as you'd expect. On this particular board, it can be found under Boot Sequence, whereas many other boards this was usually available under Standard or Advanced CMOS features or your main BIOS settings page. So set up your boot device first. If you're using a bootable operating system DVD, show your DVD drive as the primary boot device, solid state as the secondary, and hard drive as the third option. We set it like this, so as the PC will boot from your bootable DVD now, then look for your secondary boot device, likely the solid state or the hard drive if you don't have a solid state installed, when you remove the bootable DVD later and haven't changed these settings. You can also set your primary boot device as USB if you have made it bootable. Say if you didn't want to install a DVD drive in your PC or didn't have the option to. There's a link to this tool in the description. While we're in here, it's probably a good time to set up your system time. This will save you from setting it in the operating system install later. A quick thing to note, particularly when using an SSD, is the configuration of AHCI in your motherboard preferences. AHCI is the Advanced Host Controller Interface. It's a newer standard that enables higher sequential read rates from your drive, which will moderately increase performance and allows you to hot swap your drive. Say you have a case that allows you to externally connect your drives. This needs to be configured before you install Windows if you have an SSD. From here, save all changes in your BIOS and the computer should power cycle itself and execute the newly configured settings in your BIOS. This should direct the computer to begin booting from your newly assigned operating system media. Prior to clicking OK to exit and restart though, just make sure that the boot DVD or USB is in the computer, so when the PC reboots it won't miss the media in the boot device scan, which occurs within the first few seconds of when you turn the computer on. If you put a DVD or USB in when the computer first turns on, the computer might miss the boot scan of it. Where the boot device is set correctly and the bootable media is present, your PC should boot into your operating system installation program. It may show a prompt saying, "Press any key to boot from CD." If so, hit space. If you haven't guessed already, we're installing Windows 7 on this PC. If I was working on a touchscreen display or similar, I'll consider the tiled 8 setup, but 7 just works for me. Most installs have followed a similar setup method for a long time, so whether you're installing any later version, the process will be entirely similar. Just a side note, where you have a 64-bit processor such as the Intel i5, i7 and some AMD processors, ensure that you have ordered and are using a 64-bit operating system. It's usually denoted by X64 where you order it, or it is shown on the packaging. Ordering the operating system in this configuration ensures your operating system takes full advantage of your processor's capabilities. So from here, we come to the first setup items for your operating system. Select your language. Usually there's only one choice here unless you have chosen a different OS language specifically. However, you can download language interface packs at a later date for free where you need. Set the time and currency format. The default is US Imperial, so the rest of the world will want to change this one to ensure that the date is displayed how it suits their country, alongside the default time zone setting that the OS will choose. You can also set your keyboard method. Set this as you need, but for the US and Australia, it will be primarily the QWERTY keyboards. Other countries with other configurations can set and choose here. A quick speed read of the license terms. Oh, we can't accept it yet. Have a bit of a read through this. That looks okay. Just accept those if you agree with them and go to next. Essentially, you can do an upgrade or a new installation, which is called custom. This video will focus on a new installation. If you are doing an upgrade, I really suggest that your existing files are appropriately backed up, and I would largely recommend undertaking a new installation also to ensure best system compatibility. As you can see, the installation program asks which storage device, a hard drive or a solid-state drive, that we wish to use to install our operating system to. It may not be readily apparent, so go from the drive sizes that you see on your screen. In this example, our SSD is 250 gig and our hard drive is 1 terabyte. Where you have installed a solid-state drive or SSD, as suggested in our budget gaming PC build, install your operating system to this solid-state drive. This will ensure that your most frequently accessed and required system tasks are stored on the faster drive, enabling these processes to be completed in much shorter time frame, which enhances your computer performance substantially. Where you do not have a solid-state drive installed, install your operating system to your primary hard drive in the computer. Where you do have a SSD installed, you should use your hard drive for storing your bigger files such as movies and pictures that you only use once in a while or where the slower access speeds don't make much of a difference in the use of your computer. You may see the load driver option here. This is for systems that don't have a generic storage device or chipset and may require additional drivers to be loaded in order to interface to the storage device. Since we're using quite mainstream parts here and it has detected the drives, we have no need to use this. Drive options brings up the options that were usually known as F-disk in the DOS generation. This is where you set your hard drive partitions. If you have installed fresh drives into the computer, they will appear as unallocated space and will need to be partitioned. This operating system installation has made this exceptionally easy now. A hard drive needs to be partitioned and formatted before you can store data on it. A partition is an area on a hard disk that can be formatted with a file system and is identified with the letter of the alphabet. If you delete or format an existing partition, all data on the partition is permanently deleted, including files as well as programs and settings. You need to select a file system type and then format the partition where your operating system installer does not automatically do this for you. This operating system primarily uses NTFS as its primary partition, and if you're utilizing a non-Unix based operating system or similar, I would recommend this partition type. FAT32 is an older file system type and does not work well with file sizes over 2 GB in some environments. Most drives are partitioned as a single partition that is the size of the entire drive. You can partition drives into several partitions, which can be useful for segmenting your data on an individual storage drive, one for your operating system, another for a secondary bootable OS, or for movie files. If you just want one primary partition on the drive you have selected, you can just click Next and it should find the default NTFS drive partition and format the drive automatically for you. Otherwise, if you wish to specifically select the file system type or size yourself, or format a previously used drive, you can click on Drive Options and perform these actions. Click on New, set your partition size. This can be a percentage or the full size of the primary drive. For our SSD, we'll select the full amount as it's only 256 GB. You'll see that Windows automatically assigns its own reserved partition on this drive. It's called System Reserved. For our hard drive, due to its size, 1 TB, we'll divide this one into two for a bit of redundancy. This will be helpful for segmenting our files and could potentially save us if a virus infects the other half. It can be helpful with redundancy, where say one partition has an error or virus. You have some redundancy in the fact that the system sees two storage devices exclusive of each other on your one storage device. This won't protect you specifically against hardware fault, but the segregation may help out in certain instances. Ensure you have your primary drive selected, likely your solid state, and click Next. This next stage, your computer is copying the required files, largely decompressing from the DVD to your permanent storage in your PC and undertaking the installation process. The operating system install will then begin expanding the operating system files from the DVD to your primary storage selected. So it will copy it to this drive as a cache and then execute the operating system files from there. That's why this process takes a little bit. The DVD read speed is limited, even though you may have a very fast CPU and solid state drive. It may start off quite slow initially and then rocket through. It'll usually take a long time to get to around 10%, and then it'll fly. Anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes for the expansion is usual for this. I'll skip this bit forward. After the files are expanded, then the SSD and the CPU can utilize their speed and the install should complete within about 20% compared to the file expansion time. You will also see the computer will request to be power cycled in this time. This is usual and is part of the install process. You may see a few flashes as the computer attempts to configure the display drivers initially for better resolution on the screen you're working on. This is normal as well. The system will then restart again. Note that the operating system install overrides the initial boot DVD from this option. You will then enter your username. You can set whatever you want with invalid means. We've set ours as Brett. The second name, the computer name, will just be the username with PC at the end of it, and this is fine. It is used to identify your computer by name on your local or business network. We've set ours to EasyPCbuilder. Then the primary admin password, which is optional. This doesn't specifically have to be set if it's just you using the computer, but can be handy if you want to lock down some of the computer settings and just have you change it. This can be disabled at a later stage if you wish to. If you don't want to set an administrator password, just click Next past this. And then type your product key. and choose to activate when online to get rid of registration messages. So at this point you have a choice of 3 options here. There is the recommended settings. It's a bit over the top but safe. It will undertake the automatic download and install of updates. It will perform an auto search for drivers, which can be hit and miss. You would usually always want to refer to the manufacturer website for the latest and correct drivers. It enables the web browser smart screen filter, which warns about websites which could contain threats to your computer, which will automatically send statistics to the operating system provider. In regards to error reporting, the operating system will automatically send data to the operating system provider. And this option also has the auto turn on of the Customer Experience Improvement Program, which collects additional information and sends it to the operating system provider. I personally prefer install important updates only, as it will only install critical updates and will let you choose to download and install optional updates. It also opts you out of many of the other automatically send this information to the operating system provider tools, which are activated by default in their recommended settings. Set the date and time and adjust for daylight savings. Pay special note to the date here. However, this should have pulled the settings from your motherboard, so if that was set correctly, you should only have to ensure your time zone is correct. Then the operating system will finalize these settings. Then we're booting into Windows, preparing the desktop, and you're in. Stay tuned for the next video, where we'll explain the best way to set up your system software and drivers to ensure your PC is as reliable, fast, and flexible as it can be. Thanks for watching another EasyPCbuilder video.